Hey, what's going on, guys? It's Bakes here, and thank you for joining me for today's random horror review. Today's movie is from a franchise where I've actually covered majority of the other films so far on my channel, just coincidentally. But today we are covering the remake from 2008. It is the Prom Night remake. So before I get into my thoughts of this movie, as usual, I'll quickly go into the plot for this one. So the intro of this movie actually takes place 3 years before the main events that we're following in this film. So we have our main character Donna, played by Brittany Snow, high school girl. She arrives home one night after hanging out with some friends or something like that, and then after entering the house she quickly realizes that majority of her family has been murdered. So obviously she's freaking out, she's scared, she hears a noise, hides under a bed, and while watching from underneath the bed, she sees one of her high school teachers attack and murder her mum, who was the last person alive in the house. Like I said, the intro of this movie takes place 3 years before the main events, but in this mid-time we figure out that the teacher had this crazy obsession with Donna. He just thought they were destined to be together. He had been scheming and plotting this attack for a very long time, and then upon arriving at the house and realizing Donna wasn't there, he just sort of freaked out and murdered the rest of the family, hoping that he could just get them alone. But as I said, that was 3 years prior. Now we're 3 years in advance. Donna is living with her auntie and uncle. The teacher has been put in prison, as he should, and now Donna and her friends are getting ready for her prom night. Trying to forget about her past. Obviously it's something that haunts her. She wishes her family was there with her, but trying to make the most of it. However, this killer, her ex-teacher, obsessed with her, has now escaped prison and is trying to find Donna, and it just so happens to be on the night of her prom. So that's pretty much the gist of the plot there. This is a remake pretty much by name only. It doesn't have too much overlapping plot-wise or anything like that. So if you're expecting it to be like, fairly similar to the original Prom Night movie, I mean, the only thing that has overlap is pretty much the fact that they're both slashers and they both take place on prom night. So there you go. The OG Prom Night is actually a movie that's grown on me crazy. Like, the first couple of times I've seen Prom Night, I thought it was okay but nothing special, but I love that first original Prom Night now, and the sequels are obviously very different, going a more supernatural slasher route, but I love those movies as well. And it's been a very long time since I revisited the remake, so when I saw it sitting there and I went, I've actually covered majority of the early Prom Night movies, I should get back around to this one. I remembered it not being the best, and that being said, like, a lot of people claim that this is like the worst horror remake out there, or in the top 10 or anything like that. I don't think it's as bad as what a lot of people make it out to be, but we'll get into the reasons why I also don't think it's anything special. So first of all, this movie doesn't feel much like a slasher, especially compared to the original. I mean, technically, yes, it is a slasher, but to me it feels a lot more like a crime thriller at points, especially. There are moments where, with the kills and everything, it plays out like a traditional slasher in a sense, but yeah, it's definitely more thriller leaning, this remake. The hotel setting for the prom itself is like really cool. Like, this is the most extravagant prom I've ever fucking seen in my life. Here in Australia we don't do proms and everything, but going through high school you have graduation parties and ceremonies and things prom like, I suppose. Nothing on this level though. It's absolutely crazy, but I actually really do like the setting and just how grand it is, and it just gives it a bit more like, I don't know, it just feels like a bit higher stakes, I suppose. Like, there's just so much going on, so it does sort of keep you on your toes. Things in this movie, and I guess just the movie itself, is so 2000s coded. Like, as I said, this is a movie from 2008, but just like, whether it's the music, the clothing, the technology, like, it just takes me back to the 2000s. I was born in 2001, so as I said, just very 2000s coded, and that just felt nostalgic to me. Brittany Snow as our lead in this movie is pretty cool. Maybe it's because I think her most defining role now is her in Pitch Perfect, but I just like seeing her pop up in horror movies. Like, you've got Prom Night, obviously. Would You Rather? I don't know if there's really been... Oh, she was in X. She played the porn star in X. But yeah, I really like seeing her pop up in horror. I think she's pretty underrated, and I feel like she does a reasonably good job, playing the lead in this movie. But we also have like other really cool actors that a lot of people probably had forgotten are in this movie. Like, you got Idris Elba as the main detective. You've got what's his name from It Chapter 2 and The Black Phone, James Ransone. He's actually passed away now, which is really sad, but he plays like the assistant to Idris Elba's leading investigator there. So there's actually a lot of familiar faces in this movie, which I think is pretty cool. So going through everything that I've said so far, I've tried to mainly highlight the positives that I have with this movie, because like I said, a lot of people claim that the Prom Night remake is one of the worst remakes in horror of all time. And I really don't think it's that bad. I think it really depends on, what you want from a remake, because again, this is pretty much a remake by name only. There's not really got too much like overlapping with plot and story and things like that. It is fairly different. But again, I really don't think it is as bad as what a lot of people make it out to be. I just think personally this movie is very stale. Like, there's not really much in this movie that is going to stick with you. It's pretty run by the numbers. It's not overly exciting. It just feels like by the time you get to the end of the movie, you've just gone, okay. And like, that's pretty much it. Like, in a matter of a week and from now, I'm already going to forget majority of the things about this movie. And I feel like that was the case, the first handful of times I'd seen it also. So getting into a few of the negatives, I suppose, breaking it down a little bit more. That 10-minute intro to the movie that I was talking about before, that takes place 3 years before the main events that we're following. That backstory and setting up the context could have actually been really neat if we explored that a little bit more. The whole backstory of him trying to find Donna and, murdering the family and whatever. I can't help but feel that that is the more exciting story compared to what we're actually following in the movie. Like, I just feel like if that was a film in of itself, sort of playing like a obsession route psychological slasher film, I think that could have been fairly interesting. But instead, like I said, the events that we're actually following on this prom night isn't overly exciting, which is unfortunate. I think there are a lot of conveniences and things that are just stretched for the sake of this movie. Like, the thing that I find the most unrealistic is how this guy had escaped prison and everything leading up to him showing up at this prom. Like, first of all, the fact that this guy escapes a prison, he is a teacher, like, he's had no prior convictions or anything before that. Like, how the fuck did he escape a prison? How late the cops were notified that he had escaped the prison. Like I said, you've got Idris Elba, who is the lead investigator, and he gets a phone call from whatever town the prison's at, and they're like, oh yeah, this guy escaped 3 days ago. And he's like, 3 days? Like, how the fuck have you not notified us over the past 3 days? Like, what the fuck is going on? And then he just sort of brushes it off. I'm like, that is wild. Like, that is just so convenient. How quickly he travels so far, because like I said, the prison's in a whole different town, and like I said, 3 days had passed since he had escaped. But again, I just feel like it's a bit of a stretch. And then also, like, the perfect timing for him to arrive at town on the night where she's not with her parents, not under supervision or anything like that. I just find that wild as well. One plot point where I actually don't know if this annoys people or anything like that, but I can just imagine it is something that irks people. The investigators show up at Donna's auntie and uncle's house, because again, that's who she's living with now that her family got wiped out. And they say to the auntie and uncle, do you want us to bring her home from prom, have her under the roof here, and, just keep it within this house? Or do you want us to leave her at prom, not notify her, but we can watch from a distance? And the auntie is the one that wants her home, but the uncle, makes up this argument to why he reckons she should stay there, not be distracted, try and enjoy her night, and, they can just watch from a distance. Obviously, things don't go to plan because, the events of the movie end up fucking taking place. But I actually feel like his argument is fairly reasonable. And again, I don't know if this is something that irks people that have watched this movie, but I actually, like, listening to his argument, I think it's well explained and argued well enough to the point where I'm like, okay, like, I actually feel like that makes sense. Again, I'm not a parent, so I don't know if, like, a maternal, if I'm a father, I don't know. If, like, a parental instinct kicks in to a point where I'm like, no, I want my kid home right now. But I feel like the argument he makes kind of makes, like, a little bit of sense, and I wasn't fully against it. But again, I'm not a parent, so what the fuck do I know? And again, I don't even know if that's a point in the movie that irks people. Another plot point that I think is pretty weak in this movie is pulling the evacuation alarm to have masses of people exit this hotel, because as I said, this prom is taking place in this hotel where it's not just the students there, it is like open to the public also. Pulling the evacuation alarm to get the masses out of the building when you're trying to find one specific killer. I don't know, like, I feel like it's harder to find someone when people are rushing out in mass. I find that plot point to be a little bit ridiculous. And then the final act of this movie is just way drawn out. I've just realised, I'm looking at the runtime of this video now, it's gone on way too long, so I'm just wrapping this up now, and the final act of this movie is just way too drawn out. Yeah, this movie, like I said, it's overhated. I don't think it's as bad as what a lot of people make it out to be. Unfortunately, it's just very stale, and I just feel like a lot of the plot points are kind of weak, a lot of conveniences, and overall it's just not anything exciting. So with that being said, I'm going to give Prom Night, the remake from 2008, a 5 out of 10. I think it's just kind of right in the middle there, where it's watchable, but it's not something I really want to come back to too often. Again, guys, I've actually covered majority of the Prom Night franchise. I've done the first film. Like I said, the 2 of the 3 sequels, where, if you don't know, the sequels follow a supernatural slasher route. So Hello Mary Lou, Prom Night 2, I've done Prom Night 3, The Last Kiss. The only Prom Night movie I haven't done now is Prom Night 4, which I've actually never seen before, so maybe I'll get around to it, kill 2 birds with 1 stone, do a review and actually check it out for the first time. But I much prefer the original series of the films. This remake, as I said, watchable, just fairly stale. But thank you for joining me for this review, guys. If you have a different opinion on this film, let me know in the comments below. But otherwise, I'll see you for another video soon. Peace.